Good afternoon from snowy Cedarville, Ohio. We're so glad that you're joining us today for CCP Live. This is a College Credit Plus live stream. It's a Q&A for Ohio homeschool families. So as people are joining, we want to hear where you're from. What part of Ohio or what part of the country are you from? Please comment below. We love to know who is watching with us today. So, while folks are still joining, I want to share with you about CHIO's annual high school symposium and college and career fair. It's coming up on April 1st, and Cedarville University will be sponsoring this event in Granville, Ohio. So there will be featured speakers from Cedarville, HSLDA, the military, and trade organizations. So we encourage you to save the date and plan to attend. You can register at chiohome.org. Okay, so welcome and thank you for joining us for CCP Live. This event is co-sponsored by Christian Home Educators of Ohio and Cedarville University. We're coming to you live from the Cedarville University newsroom. So if you have never heard of Cedarville University, I'd like to share a few things with you. We are an accredited, Christ-centered college located in Southwest Ohio. We offer more than 175 undergraduate and graduate programs. We're recognized nationally for authentic Christian community and rigorous academics. We have an enrollment of more than 5,000 students, and there's more than 25% of our students are homeschool graduates. Lastly, we offer asynchronous online dual enrollment courses, and we accept CCP funding, which is why we're here today. We would love to talk about the College Credit Plus program with you. So today, I'm going to be your moderator. My name is Sarah Gump. So as I am directing the conversation with these two ladies, I'll also be in the chat. So if you have any questions, please, on YouTube or Facebook, comment all of your questions in the chat box, and I will be the middleman to ask our two experts the questions. So please comment any question that you have about dual enrollment or College Credit Plus. So joining me this afternoon are two veteran homeschool parents and CCP experts to share with you about Ohio's College Credit Plus program. So I have Shelly Daub on the far right. She is the Assistant Director of Dual Enrollment here at Cedarville University. And then to my left, I have Melanie Elzy. She is the Legislative Liaison for the Christian Home Educators of Ohio. So Melanie, can you give us a brief introduction about CHIO and yourself?
Sure. Well, for more than 35 years, Christian Home Educators of Ohio has served families who are seeking to give their children a Christ-centered home education experience. So two words that we focus on are preserve and support. The work we do at the state level is to help preserve our God-given constitutional right to home educate our children. And then as families are on a diverse journey, every homeschool experience, from family to family is different. We want to provide support for families along the way. So what that looks like is we provide getting started workshops that are local across the state, throughout the state. We also have the event that Sarah was mentioning with the high school symposium and the college and career fair. So that is a really unique, full day, very focused seminars. Shelly Daub is going to be one of our keynote presenters for College Credit Plus. We also have Anita Gibson coming in from Maryland. She works with HSLDA at the high school counseling level, so she will help families learn how to map out their high school years, or if you're in the middle of the high school years, she'll give you guidance. There's included in that is a transcript clinic. It's just a full day of folks who come to that go away saying, wow, I didn't know this and I didn't know that. So it really is a day to come and learn how to sort of perfect your high school experience for your children. We are changing it up this year, and we are going to be providing an opportunity for students to come 10th grade and above to take the ASVAB assessment. That is produced by and executed by the U.S. military, but we've been told that more than 80% of the folks who take the ASVAB career aptitude assessment are not looking for a military experience. So you don't have to be looking for the military track to take that particular assessment. It will do some aptitude components that will help guide you into where programs are available for your areas of interest and strengths. It's just a very cool opportunity, but you have to be at least 10th grade and above, and it's free. So that's also a wonderful experience there. Legally and legislatively, what we have done, as an example, is provided opportunities for legislators to understand how policies affect families. An example, 2015, we were able to enact our high school diploma statutes so that the diploma issued by every high school homeschooling parent has to be, under state law, it shall be recognized to fulfill any legal requirement to show proof of completion of high school. So you will not be discriminated against because you have chosen this as a lawful option to educate your children. So we have so much more available to families, but I would invite you to go to chiohome.org to check out the website, see what events are there, what support services are there, and we're happy to serve you.
Thank you, Melanie. Since 25% of our students come from homeschool families, we definitely appreciate CHIO and all the work they do because we do have a large homeschool community on campus. So Shelley, can you tell us a little bit about your role with dual enrollment?
Sure, but first I do want to make just a quick plug again for April 1st and the High School Symposium. It really is a wonderful event. I've been a home educator for over 25 years, and I did not attend the event until my last son was a senior in high school. But even I learned things after 25 years of homeschooling, so it's a great event. My role at Cedarville is as the Assistant Director of Dual Enrollment. So what that means is I will walk through the entire process with your family from determining if College Credit Plus or dual enrollment courses are right for your student, the application process, and then that handoff to one of our academic advisors. I have done some academic advising, so I've gotten to see how CCP works for students all the way from 7th to 12th grade. And it's been a really wonderful experience. All 5 of my sons have participated in dual enrollment, and they've earned anywhere from a dozen to up to 60 credit hours. So if you have questions about what that looks like, please drop them in the chat. We're more than happy to answer what it feels like to be a homeschool mom whose student is in college, as well as what it feels like for the student to be taking college classes.
That's awesome. So today, the focus of our live stream is about College Credit Plus. So for many of you, this might be the first time you've ever heard that term, but some of you might be veterans. So we encourage you to ask any of your questions in the chat about College Credit Plus. We will have Shelley and Melanie answering your questions today, but also to protect your students' privacy, if you have very specific questions, we encourage you to email dualenrollment@cedarville.edu, and Shelley or a member of her team will email you a very specific response very quickly. So I encourage you to either put it in the chat box or email us with your questions. So to begin, Shelley, can you give us a quick overview of what College Credit Plus is?
I can. So College Credit Plus is a state of Ohio program. It's funded by Ohio taxpayer dollars, and the Ohio Department of Education administers the program. Homeschool families can apply for funding annually for their students in grades 7 through 12. Students are given an award amount, and that award amount can be used for free tuition at participating colleges and universities. Every state university or college, so community colleges or big colleges like UC and OSU, are required to participate, and then a few private colleges like Cedarville participate as well. So basically, with the College Credit Plus program, if your student is eligible and you jump through all the hoops because it is a state program, then your student will receive free tuition. They will receive all of their course fees waived by the university, and then books are provided by the family for homeschool families. But it's a great way for your student to earn up to 120 credit hours of college credit while they're still in high school.
That's awesome. I want to interject 2 things from the chat. Number 1, the High School Symposium and College and Career Fair is April 1st in Granville, Ohio. So I see some conversation about that. So we encourage you to check out shiohome.org. And number 2, Ashley also has 5 sons. So she wanted to let you know.
The Mom of 5 Boys Club is a fun club to be in.
So fun. Okay, so Melanie, since CCP is a taxpayer-funded program, can you help us understand how the program is funded and how much funding is available for homeschoolers?
Well, it's pretty simple. Ohio has a 2-year budget process. So we are in the 2nd year. We're in fiscal year 23. So for each year through the state budget, legislators have most recently approved $3 million for the year. Once the money is used, it's gone. So it almost is a first come, first serve, but not. They prioritize the older students in terms of the amount of credit hours that are approved per family or per student. But the funding comes through the state budget every 2 years. So we do not have, the last state budget was House Bill 110. It was passed for the biennium in 2021, June of 2021. We don't have a draft or a proposed budget yet for this year, but it should be shortly dropped in the legislature, and we'll be able to take a peek and see what the funding would look like for the next 2 years moving forward.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that, Melanie. And I would say, you know, I love to talk with homeschool families about facts and fiction and myths about CCP because there are a lot of myths out there. And I want to clarify that it's not necessarily first come, first serve, right? It is if you apply between February 1st and April 1, then those are the first come, right? So if you come after April 1, the funding will all be distributed.
Right. So in that sense, but they do prioritize for the older students.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So on April 1st, what they do is they take the applications of all eligible students, they divide them into year groups from 7th grade through seniors, and then they begin distributing funds in 4 credit hour increments to seniors and then juniors on down the line, and they keep making that rotation.
Right. And home educating families did not always have access to College Credit Plus. Back when it was the post-secondary enrollment option, it was under a different descriptor. It was available first to the public schools, then to the non-public schools, and then to the non-chartered non-publics, and then in the last 6 or 8 years it's been available to home educating families. So the funding began, I believe, at $1.5 million per year, so it has increased in the last few years. I have no way to predict what the projected budget amount will be for the next 2 years ahead of us.
Wow.
We'll see.
Sarah, Melanie made a great point too. There are 3 different pots of money. So if you apply for funding as a homeschooled student and then you change your school option, you can't transfer that funding. So you do have to know what your plans are for next year and what type of school your student or school situation your student is going to be in before you apply for funding.
That's correct.
You mentioned post-secondary, and I was a post-secondary student like 12 years ago. So I also...
Sarah was also a homeschooled student, but we didn't say that either.
So I have participated in this program. So I would say it's a great program.
Yeah.
Names have changed, regulations have changed.
Things change.
Yes.
So Shelley, can you talk about the new regulations for 2022?
Yes, so in some of you who have been kind of new to CCP over the last couple of years or just watching it evolve a little bit, saw lots of changes related to test scores and eligibility requirements during the pandemic. Well, in 2022, the legislature kind of, and Melanie understands the process better than I do, but they landed on some eligibility requirements that I think are going to stick going forward. And so right now, in order to participate in College Credit Plus funding, you have to be an Ohio resident, attending an Ohio public, private, or homeschool in grades 7 through 12. And the homeschool piece of that requires that you are filing notification with the
Correct.
state of Ohio so that you have that letter of excusal from compulsory attendance that you get every year. So that's the residency requirement. Then there's an academic eligibility requirement, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute in depth. But you do have to meet certain GPA or test score requirements. And then there's something new in 2022 called the Mature Content Permission Slip, and we're going to have Melanie speak to that a little bit as well. The final pieces there are that you do have to apply for funding annually by April 1st, and part of your funding application is that you have to already have a letter of acceptance to the college of your choice. So those are lots of parts and pieces. It's a lot of steps, and CHIO can help walk you through those. Cedarville's dual enrollment office can help walk through those. Lots of help out there for you.
I want to pop in and say, I know we have people viewing from other states. So even though we're talking directly about College Credit Plus, we do have a dual enrollment program which is applicable to high schoolers within the United States. So even though we're talking specifically about requirements and regulations for the state of Ohio, I would still encourage you to check out our website about dual enrollment if you have a high schooler that's interested in taking college courses. So I want to segue back to Melanie to talk about the mature content permission requirements.
And I want to take time to really help you understand why this was changed and what it looks like. In House Bill 110, so this provision I'm about to describe became effective in September of 2021. There were some families who had home educating students participating in, for example, a literature class at a state university, and the material in these courses were an extreme version, I would describe, of pornography. And as the parents and the student approached the professor, can they read something different? Can they do something that would be comparable? They were declined. And so if you think about it, every student in college, most students in college using College Credit Plus are minors. Most of them are younger than 18 years old. And we have provisions in the criminal code in Ohio that you can't distribute pornography to minors. You can't disseminate and provide these types of materials. It's against the law, you go to jail. But in that criminal code, they have an exception for educational programs. So instead of changing the criminal code and that provision, because it would affect older students at the universities as well, they created a consent process. So every university, even Cedarville, even though you don't have to worry about things like this at Cedarville as a Christian university, every participating university and college has to have a disclaimer on their material and on their website that describing the mature subject matter would include materials that would be explicit, violent, graphic, or sexual in nature. And there has to be a consent form that's signed by the student and the parent acknowledging that this is possible. You also have, the statute now describes how the parents and the student have access to see the materials before the class, before you sign up for a class, and you're allowed to withdraw from the class without penalty up to a certain point as well, without having to take a failing grade for the class. So there are ways to protect yourself. To me, it really indicates that as you're deciding where to attend and what classes to sign up to take, you have to make some discerning judgments on how the Lord would be directing your steps, because you can establish your children. You're raising them in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, and you're wanting to raise them as godly men and women, but you're making decisions now to possibly put them in an environment that's not that way, with the exception of attending Cedarville or a similar Christian university. So that all has to be factored in, but the point of the statute change was to have parents understand and going into College Credit Plus with your eyes wide open so you can understand what's going to be presented to your students.
So Shelley, can you speak to that and how it relates to the classes at Cedarville?
I can. So at Cedarville, of course, all of our courses are taught from a biblical worldview. I wouldn't say we would discuss mature content in any classes like the type of content Melanie was describing, but of course we do discuss mature topics. These are college level classes, and you could have a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old student in class with 20, 21-year-old classmates. And so when it comes to those mature topics, though, everything is seen through a biblical lens and a biblical worldview. Our mission statement is that we stand for the Word of God and the testimony of Jesus Christ. And so I would say that anything that comes to your student through Cedarville University is going to be honoring of the Lord. Sarah, I wanted to go back because I did skip a slide. Academic requirements, because I didn't get into that granular detail of how will I know if my student is going to be eligible for College Credit Plus academically. So these are the new rules. The student must have a standardized test score that has to be an ACT, SAT, or Accuplacer exam that meets the state minimum standards. There are a couple of other tests that are written into law that you've probably never heard of, like MapleSoft and ALEX. So I didn't put those on this slide. So the student must have test scores, or they must have a 3.0 unweighted cumulative high school GPA. Now, you may be thinking, my student is an 8th grader, they don't have a high school GPA yet. And so in that case, the student may be required to submit test scores to supplement their transcript, just so that we know they're college ready. The other option is that the student can have a 2.75 unweighted high school GPA plus an A or a B in a relevant course. And so the big thing to know here is that the state sets minimum standards, but every college sets their own standards based upon the difficulty and rigor of their own academic curriculum. And so your student might be eligible and be admitted at one college, but maybe not be admitted at another college. And so you'll just have to kind of cull through different colleges and look at what those requirements are. We'll talk about Cedarville's requirements towards the end, just so that you have that fresh in your mind as we're closing.
So I want to bring a question from the chat from Andrea. She's asking, can we change our students' graduation date like they have done 4 years of high school but are not 18 years old until August 17th? Could they do a 5th year of high school and participate in another year of College Credit Plus?
That is a very tricky question for us. The state of Ohio says that once you have established your student's graduation date, you may not change it. So really the answer depends on where you are in your journey. Have you already submitted a high school transcript to a college with a date of graduation? If so, that is your student's graduation date. And my best recommendation is that if you're in that situation, connect with the college, ask these questions. Every case is a little different.
The next question is from Allie. She's asking, what are the pros and cons for having a 7th grader working through the CCP classes? Is it better to wait?
Wow, that's a great question, because it's on the hearts and minds. It's not an academic question, it's more of a heart question. And my personal opinion, free is good. And the Lord provides resources to provide for what your student is going to need moving in through those college years. To have access to this type of an opportunity is great, but you have to consider, is your child not just academically ready? Is he or she not just socially ready, but is he or she spiritually ready to be interacting with older students? Only you can make that determination based on how the Lord has allowed you to see the growth of your child, to see if they're mature enough for that. You don't want to put your child in a setting with the caveat that Cedarville is Christ-centered, but there are a lot of families who will choose a local community college or something that's not Christ-centered. You want to be very, in my opinion, you want to be very careful about that, because those influences could be life-altering, in terms of the magnitude of someone influencing and shaping the viewpoints of your children. So it's not just getting the academic credit, and it's not just saving the money, but it's who are you choosing to help influence the growth of your children.
I would add to that as well that keep in mind, once your student starts taking college classes, some things come into play that you may not expect. One is that you're starting your student's college transcript. The GPA that they earn, the grades that they earn, stay with them. And so if your student is not yet ready and they earn a poor grade, then they have to overcome that. I would add that there's a difference between being gifted and being college ready. So your 7th grade student could be very gifted in math or English or a subject, but if they're not well-rounded across the board in all subjects, they're probably going to struggle in their college classes, and it might be wiser to find a gifted curriculum for them to use, or to increase their curriculum in 7th grade. Across the state of Ohio, less than 0.5% of students who participate in CCP are 7th graders and 8th graders. It's a very small number.
And adding to what Shelley just said, if your child signs up for a class and they do not pass the class, you are responsible financially to reimburse the state for that class. So there is you want your child not to just squeak by anyway. You want your child, him or she, to do well, but you want you want to make sure that you're setting them up for success. I have a question along this line for you, Shelley. With FERPA, the Federal Education Rights and Privacy Act, a lot of families think that once they enroll their child, the parent can have access to request records and things of that nature, but FERPA, that doesn't work with the federal privacy laws.
That's right, and I actually have a slide on that if I can find it. Yes. So student privacy rights and policies are dependent upon not only FERPA, the Federal Educational Rights and Privacy Act of 1973, but also university privacy policies can be even more stringent than FERPA, depending on where you're going. But let's talk about FERPA. What FERPA says is that once your student enrolls in a college course, privacy rights transfer to the student.
Right.
So that means that parents cannot contact professors, they can't have access to their students' grades, they should not have access to their email, their college email, or their Canvas account or Blackboard account, whatever learning management system they use. So you really have to think about your students' maturity and if they're ready for that level of responsibility. And if you as a parent are ready to step back and let them have that. Because we've been there, it's not easy.
I think that was a great segue and a great point. That is your student ready to interact with a faculty member? Are they ready to manage their schedule, manage the time that it's going to take to get assignments done? Like you said, it's their email. It's their login to the Canvas account. And so it's the student's responsibility to plan their day, to plan their week, and to plan the semester. So are you ready to let that go as a parent? Right. And is your child ready for that responsibility?
A comment that I frequently hear from families is that they think college will teach their child these things. And I would say, no, your student needs to know these things before they come in. If you as mom or dad are filling out their college application for them because you don't trust them to do it completely or fully, or if you're using your email address because you don't trust them to check their email account, those should be some warning flags in your mind that maybe your student's not ready yet. On the other hand, College Credit Plus funding is for a full year. So your student who is not ready right now in January of 2023 may very well be ready in the spring of their sophomore or freshman year. So you have to balance that a little bit, but it's definitely a teaching and learning experience for the student.
Okay, another question is, how does the ACT, SAT, CLT play into a student's college career and College Credit Plus? Because you said that the high school GPA is necessary or the test score. So how does that, which one's better?
So you're going to have to submit a transcript regardless, okay? And because we need that transcript for them to, during the application process. If your student submits qualified ACT or SAT scores, then most colleges are going to require those for them to enroll in English or math courses. So without a test score, your student may be limited in what courses they can actually enroll in. The CLT is not recognized by College Credit Plus. Cedarville will recognize it for enrollment into courses, but we can't use it to determine if your student is College Credit Plus eligible.
Okay.
And if you're not familiar with the CLT, that is the classical learning test.
Yes.
Yes.
Good job. Okay, Andrea asks, can a student be enrolled in more than one university at a time?
Definitely,
Okay.
you can.
Wow.
You can. It's challenging. Remember, we just talked about managing emails. So then your student is going to have an email, their personal email, and an email for each college, and then a login for they might have Canvas at one school and Blackboard at another. So it's definitely a challenge. One of my sons, by his senior year, was actually enrolled in 3 different colleges at the same time in order to get the classes that he needed. So it can happen.
And I will add too, because she was mentioning the transcripts are completely necessary. If you're not planning for College Credit Plus for this coming year, if you're thinking ahead, you will want to come to this high school symposium that we are offering, it will be providing a transcript clinic. And they're very good about answering questions of folks. In fact, we have had to turn families away in the last couple of years because we've maxed out our space, and we've moved to a little bit bigger space this year. So that will help more come and learn. It's a learning experience, but it's worth it.
I think it's important to add too, Melanie, that your high school transcript starts when your student begins taking high school level courses. So if you have a 7th grade student taking Algebra 1 this year, that is the beginning of their high school transcript. And so the symposium can really help you understand how to record that on your transcript without having all of your other classes that aren't high school level on there as well.
That's a great observation. I know my mom is watching, but we didn't realize that in 8th grade. So I started freshman year in 8th grade and graduated a year early because we didn't realize.
Yes.
I started high school a year early.
And to your point, the question earlier, can you change your graduation date? We see that all the time in the dual enrollment office because a student has planned to graduate early for exactly that reason, and then they want to change their graduation date.
Yep.
So if you're still early in this process, when you choose your graduation date, just choose the chronological graduation date for your student as if they completed 12 full years from 1st grade. It's much easier to graduate early than it is to figure out how to change your graduation date and graduate later.
Okay, I want to shout out to Allie. She says, we're in Columbus. Hubby and I are 2nd generation homeschoolers who attended Cedarville. So we're glad to have alumni and parents watching. So good. Okay, another question from our YouTube. Oh, can we have that email again? Just so you know, it's dualenrollment@cedarville.edu. We are homeschooling this year, but transitioning to public school next year. How does that process work when enrolling for CCP?
So if you are going to be, if your student is going to be enrolled in public school next year, contact the guidance counselor at the high school this spring and find out what their policies are on when your student needs to apply for CCP funding. I'm sorry, I shouldn't even say it that way. The process is totally different for high school students. At public schools, you will simply have your student complete an intent to participate form, and at the public school, your textbooks and everything is covered. Public school students can get up to 30 credits per school year, but very few students actually are taking 30 credits of college while they're still in high school. Find out what the school is going to require of you before you make that leap.
Okay, another question from YouTube from Gina. She says, to apply for funding, you need to use the Ohio ID. After I log into the Ohio ID, I'm not sure where to go next. Do I request access to the Department of Education? She doesn't see an application for CCP.
There should be a link on the OHID account that would provide access for the CCP portal.
Okay.
So contact me at chio@chiohome.org, and we will help you figure that out.
I would also say that the funding application isn't open until February 1st.
Oh, that's,
so before you
thank
contact CHIO, wait till February 1.
I forget the timing of this.
Well,
Facebook
someone was
Live.
whispering to me off stage because I was in the moment and forgot as well.
That's true. The enrollment doesn't begin until February 1st, so you probably won't see that little button to click until after February 1st.
So we're all overachievers right now because we're early.
We are. But to be honest, you do need you need to figure out about applying for colleges because you're going to need your college application. You're going to need, you're going to need your college admission acceptance letter. If you are a returning student, you're going to need that letter of good standing. One thing about OHID too is that if you already have an OHID account, you don't need to create a new one. You can use that same account for multiple years for all of your students.
Oh, that's news to me. I thought it was one OHID per student.
No.
Okay, I learned something new.
Okay, we have a question. Can you please go over what we need to do to reapply for the next year? We just do the funding through OHID and intent letter?
That's right. Let me think about that. Yes, you just need to go back into the OHID account. You need to start a new funding application for this year. You will be required to either upload the letter of good standing from the college your student attended, or I believe you can upload a copy of your student's college transcript as well. And then as a homeschool family, you also have to have that letter of excusal from compulsory attendance.
Okay.
And if there's anyone out there who's new to homeschooling for next year and you don't yet have that letter of excusal from compulsory attendance, please contact your local school district, let them know what your plans are, and find out how to get that letter for next year.
Yeah, you may have to notify earlier than normal.
Okay. Which is another related question. If a student is planning to be in public school in the fall of this year, does she need to reach out to that school to get the letter of intent, even though her daughter is not attending yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And don't apply for homeschool funding.
Okay.
Funding, as Melanie mentioned, sounds very generous at $3 million per year, but we run out of funding every year. There are so many students taking advantage of this. So I always tell families, I know that it's January, and as a homeschool mom, I never knew what I was doing in the next academic year in January. And I really didn't know if my freshman or sophomore could handle 1 college class or 2 college classes or 3 college classes. But think of that money pot as being limited. It's like a buffet. If you take more cookies than your student's going to need, then those are cookies someone else doesn't get, or credit hours someone else doesn't get. Credit hours can't be rolled over to the next school year. They can't be saved. They can't be transferred. If you take credit hours that you don't need, they just go back into the pot. But the pot never seems to grow.
It is limited.
So, Shelly, I think you can speak to this. So, how does the test scores work once your student decides to go to college? So they take it at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
Do they need to retake it once they already have college courses on their transcript?
More than likely.
Okay.
More than likely. My son thinks that I'm a terrible, mean monster mommy, but my oldest son had to take the ACT annually from 7th grade on, because what I saw in him was that his scores improved every year. And so by his senior year, he had, a very excellent score that got him a full scholarship. So in this day and age, when most colleges super score, that means they take the highest score from each section of the test to create a new score for you. It can only benefit your student in terms of scholarships.
And I will add to that, we have a state law that says that students who have completed College Credit Plus courses shall not be discriminated against as a first-time enrollee into the school beyond the CCP program. So, like, for example, you've taken some courses in high school under CCP, and now you're ready to go on campus and be a university student. You are, for the purpose of scholarships, you are considered a first-year student, and you are eligible to any scholarships that are available to freshman students, first-time enrollees.
That's a great point. Did that answer your question, Sarah?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we have another one about an 8th grader. Is it okay to apply to college now and plan for him to not take any classes till the spring of his 9th grade year? So next spring, like 1 year from now.
Spring of 2024.
Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want College Credit Plus funding for spring of 2024, you should apply to colleges now. Just keep in mind, if your 8th grader has not taken high school level courses yet, they're going to need to take a test. Mm-hmm. The first time a student takes the ACT, SAT, or AccuPlacer in Ohio for CCP purposes, the test is free. If they need to repeat it, then that's at your expense.
I also want to mention a website that we've been sharing with families. It's called marchtosuccess.com, and the 2 is the number 2. And this is used, it has many facets on this website. It's produced by the U.S. military, but it helps students prepare to take ACT tests, for example. It does prep for the SAT. There are elements on this website that every homeschooling family should be looking at, in terms, and even if families who aren't homeschooling. It's a wonderful, multifaceted website in terms of different tracks, different test preparations, etc.
Mm-hmm. Readiness is such an important question, and we've talked this afternoon about maturity and time management and email management and all of those things. But when you think about the skills, the academic skills that a student needs to succeed in college, it's so important that your student be able to read at a college level. Just because your student loves to read lots of novels and devours them like crazy doesn't mean they're ready to annotate and take notes on their reading and read 5 or 6 chapters and then take a multiple choice test on it, right? So they really need those college level reading skills. They need college level writing skills. They need to be able to write in all sorts of different formats. I often tell students they need to follow my rule of 5s. You need to be able to write a 5-minute essay, a 5-paragraph essay, a 5-page essay, and a research paper. If you haven't done those things yet, you probably still need some writing practice before you start taking college classes. I think reasoning is super important. I talk to lots of students who don't love math, and I can relate because I didn't love math either. But there are things your student will learn in math class that have to do with reasoning and analysis that apply to all subjects. And so I think that we have to remember that our students, when they start taking college classes, they may be jumping over some high school coursework that would be important for them. So just really talking with the college to find out what they recommend for your student will help you know if your student is ready. Every college has a different level of academic rigor.
We've been talking about an OHID. What is an OHID?
It's an account. It's a management account. It's managed by the Department of Education, and it will provide a portal to flow the money through from the state to the college or university, so that when you get the award of the College Credit Plus funding, it's not going into your private bank account so that you're writing a check to pay for the courses. It will go through the state's OHID account, and it'll be identified for your student, but it's managed by the state.
Okay, so let's say we've evaluated as a parent. We've evaluated our children and we think they're ready and they're prepared academically, socially. Where do we begin? So Shelly, can you say how should we begin this process?
Sure. So the slide behind me has the steps. Take a screenshot if you need to. You can also go on the Ohio Department of Education website. Just type in College Credit Plus Homeschool and you'll get to a page that has lots of descriptors, including like a 50-plus page manual on how to apply for funding. But we're just going to do a quick overview today. The first step is that the student applies to a college and gets that letter of acceptance. The second step is that the parent sets up that OHID account, and the parent then applies for CCP funding. The deadline to apply for funding is April 1st at 5 p.m. No kidding. They close the website and it's all over at that point. So if you haven't applied by 5 p.m. on April 1st, then you'll have to wait a full year before you're eligible to apply for funding again. The third step is that the state will notify the parent by email within 5 weeks of April 1st about how much funding your student got, and then the student is the one who registers for their own classes. If your student does not get the amount of funding that you asked for or that you need, then most colleges provide classes, dual enrollment classes, at a substantial discount. Cedarville offers 80% off of our tuition rate to our dual enrolled students.
Which is a good term to use. So I know we still have some viewers from outside of Ohio. So if your student is in high school and taking college courses within the state of Ohio, that is College Credit Plus. But your student who is in high school and lives outside of Ohio can still participate in our college courses as a high school student, and that is the dual enrollment program. So we're using two different lingo, but dual enrollment qualifies to students who live outside the state of Ohio.
So the cost for those classes, if your student is outside the state of Ohio, or if they are not, they don't have enough CCP funding, that's $185 per credit hour. And Sarah, I would say that our students are pretty evenly split, maybe 60-40, about 60% are Ohio students and 40% are out-of-state students.
Which is awesome. So we've given, at the very beginning, I know we have someone in the chat, we gave a form. So if you're interested in more information, we encourage you to fill out this form. It just asks for some of your information, your email, your address, so we can mail you some more information about dual enrollment or CCP. So I encourage you, if you're interested, be sure to fill out that form. So if a student is CCP eligible and are they automatically accepted into college?
They are not. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about Cedarville's admission requirements because I think this helps explain that. I spoke with a local community college in the Cincinnati area just a few days ago, and they do accept students just based on those CCP eligibility requirements. But then they also said there are very limited classes those students could take until they provide test scores showing that they're ready to take college level classes. So the answer is yes, but, or yes, and. At Cedarville, our admission requirements are a little more stringent than CCP's requirements. We have that high school GPA of 3.0, which is equivalent to what CCP requires. But we describe a high school transcript as a student who has taken at least one course in each of the 4 core subject areas required for high school graduation. So your student needs to have a high school level course in English, math, science, and social studies. We will look at midterm grades for freshmen. So if your student just finished the middle of their freshman year, you could submit a transcript with midterm grades and we would look at that. If your student doesn't have those 4 core courses, then we're going to request test scores to supplement their transcript so that we can determine if they're college ready. We also require that your student submit a Christian leader recommendation. That could be a youth pastor, a homeschool co-op leader, someone who's known your student for more than 6 months and can testify that they live a life consistent with biblical principles. And it can't be mom or dad or a family member who fills that out. And then finally, as part of the student's application for admission, they will be asked to provide a brief testimony, providing evidence of a relationship with Jesus Christ. And so all of our students at Cedarville have professed to know Christ before they come. And I think that's an important difference between Christian colleges. I get asked this a lot at homeschool conventions. You know, what's the difference between different types of Christian colleges? I would say that some are very evangelism driven. And so just like you think of seeker churches, they accept students from all walks of life and they share Christ with them. And that's a beautiful model. Cedarville is what I would consider a discipleship model. All of our professors sign our statement of faith annually. All of our students profess Christ and agree to our standards of behavior and integrity. And so we really work more towards discipleship with our students, assuming that we're all starting at the same place.
Great explanation. So my student was accepted to dual enrollment or CCP. What classes should they start with?
That is why you have an academic advisor, because that question is far too broad to address for every student. Your student might be strong in math and someone else's student might be strong in science. The College Credit Plus program requires that colleges provide an academic advisor for your student. Cedarville does that in a one-on-one setting. Your student will meet with their academic advisor every semester before they can enroll in classes. Some other colleges have more like group advising sessions, but there's always the opportunity for your student to reach out to an advisor.
Okay. All right, I have some more questions from the chat. A little bit about ACT, SAT, AccuPlacer. Can you explain the process? How do I sign up for one of these? So is there a website that you would recommend for more information about tests?
So if your student has applied to Cedarville and already started their application, then they just can go to the Cedarville website and look for the little spyglass and type in the words test information. And that will take them to Cedarville's test information page where they can register for the AccuPlacer online for free. The AccuPlacer is very different than the ACT or SAT. You can take the math section at a separate time from when you take the English section, and the English section is an essay test and not a multiple choice test. Cedarville also offers a residual ACT on our campus if you live nearby or are traveling here. So that's a hand-scored ACT. Can't be used anywhere but Cedarville, but we can use it for admission, and that's free as well. Otherwise, I would say go to the College Board website or talk to the college that your student is applying to about getting that free ACT.
All right, we have another question. Is the dual enrollment option available for students within Ohio but don't desire for whatever reason to go through College Credit Plus?
Absolutely. We call it the family pay option. And so again, that's that $185 per credit hour. It's different amounts at different colleges. But your student absolutely does not have to go through College Credit Plus to take advantage of dual enrollment.
Right, and the way the statute is written, it's really in the College Credit Plus statute section, but there are two options. The first option is where the family pays self-pay, and the second option is to have the state pay for those courses. So,
you know, one reason that families sometimes choose that option is because when you take a class through College Credit Plus, the state requires that the grade you earn in the class be on your college transcript and on your high school transcript.
Right, it's a
and the
dual
grade
enrollment.
has to match. It is dual enrollment. But if you pay for the class on your own, the student can take the class for college credit only, so it won't impact their high school GPA.
Okay. I just wanted to reiterate something that Melanie said about funding scholarship availability for students. So CCP funding applies specifically to the high school student, but once they graduate, they're still eligible as a freshman for those scholarship and benefits that freshmen receive. That's correct?
that's exactly right.
And that's true for the FAFSA as well. So for federal financial aid, they are still considered a freshman.
Okay. Another question is related to how do I know how many hours to request? So if a student is accepted here at Cedarville and they have an advisor, would that advisor help them with that decision?
If you have that advisor before, you have to apply for funding.
Okay.
So here are some general things to think about. First of all, 12 credit hours per semester is a full-time college student load. So if you have a senior, maybe they're ready for 12 credit hours per semester. Very few seniors actually take that many classes. 12 credit hours would be the equivalent of about 4 classes. Your average college class is going to be a 3 credit hour class. If you enroll in a math, science, or foreign language course, those can be 4 or 5 credit hours. So talk to the college, look at the college website, see how many credit hours you might need. Then you'll want to think about study time. So most colleges say that for every credit hour your student is enrolled, they should plan for a minimum of 3 hours of study per week. So if you think about that, that student that enrolled in 12 credit hours in one semester has a minimum of 36 hours of study time per week.
And just as a clarification, I was talking recently with a mom who her student signed up for a class that would have a lab. So it was a 4-hour. So in the allocation of the College Credit Plus hours, you can only use them in 3-hour increments. So she had to use 6 hours to get the 4-hour class.
So here's my understanding,
Okay.
is that if you ask for 6 hours and your student is eligible for 6 hours, they'll get 6 hours. Otherwise, if you ask for 30 hours, the funding is distributed in increments of 4.
Okay, so they can request, is that a part of the application process?
Yes.
To request it in a different increment other than 3 hours?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a 4-hour increment that it's distributed in, not a 3-hour increment. And they can ask for any number up to 30.
Okay.
All right, ladies.
So.
Well done. I just want to say thank you so much for participating. We have had so many questions and interactions. So thank you wherever you're viewing from, including South America. That was super encouraging.
Wow.
We're global.
Pretty cool.
So
Love it.
before we sign off, do you two have any words of encouragement or advice that you'd like to give?
I would just like to encourage you to understand that the Lord knows what you need before you know what you need. So as you're praying for your children and their next steps, the verse in front of the Lord's Prayer is, your Heavenly Father knows what you need before you even ask. And then he instructs us to pray. He wants us to see how those prayers are answered. So you'll be praying for your children differently as they move through those college years and those college experiences, but God will walk with your children and with you as you make some very important decisions.
That's a tough act to follow.
Yep.
I would say that I often encourage families to revisit why they began homeschooling. When you have free money for college and the community college is right down the street, or there's another college online that has this class that you think you want, just always go back to what your reason was for homeschooling. The Lord did not call you to homeschool to educate your child as quickly and cheaply as you possibly could. He called you to homeschool your child for his glory and to honor him. And so as you keep that in mind and frame your choices around that, not looking to the left or to the right at what other people are doing with their students, but what the Lord has for your child, I think you'll make the best decisions for your family.
All right. Wow, ladies, you've got me all teary-eyed over here. Good advice. Okay, so I just want to reiterate, you can email dual enrollment at cedarville.edu with any of your questions, and there's a form in the chat box which allows you the opportunity to give us some information so we can follow up with you with more information about CCP and dual enrollment. So this is just the beginning of the conversation. So thank you for joining us today. It has been a very fun afternoon.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yes.
So signing off from snowy Cedarville, Ohio.